This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Business podcast. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about an innovative and disruptive approach to finance and insurance sectors that has emerged since COVID. Imagine not getting charged a fee for financial consulting services. In studio with us today is Ryland Haecker, the founder and CEO of Silverback Financial. Ryland is a recipient of the prestigious MDRT, or $1 Million Roundtable Award, given to those who have achieved a high level of sales and service excellence within the financial industry and have demonstrated exceptional ethical conduct and professional knowledge. Ryan, welcome to the show.
That's a great intro, Marc. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited. We had of course, I always do a prep, before we come on the show, and your knowledge of the industry and your ability to communicate that, I think, is really, really good. So I'm excited about our chat that we had, and of course, continuing it on here. I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Krukus Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced overseas administrative assistants for insurance agents who need help with policy management, claims processing, and client communication. And of course, I've been hosting this show for over 600 interviews now, a little over 2.5 years. We talked to all kinds of entrepreneurs and business owners. Always a good time. I'm always learning. A quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media, where you can catch video versions of the show. You can get everything easily by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. All right, so Ryland, let's start with your background. So tell me a little bit about, your professional background and what led you to where you're at today.
Right. So I guess you'd start from the beginning. Went to college instead of going into my family business. So there, the support for college wasn't necessarily there because, the family business going and working on the ranch. So I had to pay my way for college, and part-time jobs weren't cutting it. And so I discovered day trading at a really, as soon as I could, 18 years old, I'm opening my own brokerage account, and I'm day trading, waking up at, 4 a.m., look at all this. Because, you can work 50, 60 hours a week, and you're never going to be as satisfied working for your money than you will be watching your money work for you. So I got addicted really early on to day trading, getting into that. My wife noticed that I was very good at it. And when we both graduated and she had, I don't want to say an adult job, but when she had the job that was going to support us financially, I got to chase my dream and go into the industry that, I didn't have the degree for, but the passion to follow. And so when we moved to San Antonio, she went on about her career that was paying the bills, and I got to jump in and try to figure out my way into an industry that I, didn't realize that I was going to be so passionate about. So went in young, went in, pretty naive, going in, but just having that experience behind me of, hey, this is what I want to do, not realizing that you can't really do that for people and make money doing that for people unless you have several years in. Not many people want to trust their money with somebody who's their grandchild's age. So jumped in and said, I'm really good at growing people's money. I'm really good at growing money and investing, but I guess I need to start brushing up and studying on the more conservative side of the industry. So how do I get better at that? Went into learning insurance and capital preservation strategies, found success with that over the last decade. And COVID-19 happened, shook up the industry a lot, which allowed me to go independent, start a practice that I wanted to be slightly different, ended up being extremely different, and put something together that's really special. So yeah, about a decade in the industry, but I guess from humble beginnings, started by day trading my way through college.
I like it. It's a unique and very entrepreneurial way of approaching business. So good for you on that. All right. So obviously you have a passion for it, right? And as far as licensing and certifications and stuff like that, are those a thing where you're at now? Or
yeah, so there's two things I like to say about those licenses and those certifications that you get. One, really the only people that recognize them are other people in the industry. Industry professionals that want to transfer risk. If you're working with a CPA that's got high-end clientele, an attorney that has high-end clientele, they don't want to turn over and work with, people that don't have certain licenses, certain letters behind their name, because that tells them they can take this risk on. They can transfer the risk. They know that the person's going to be in good hands. And then the other people who have those licenses, it means that they can pass a test. It doesn't really mean that they're actually good at the job in any way, shape, or form. So, having those licenses or those capabilities, for a credibility standpoint, they're there for the industry. But as far as being good at your job and what you do, there's people out there that are, maybe undiscovered, that are the greatest investor out. Maybe they're the next Warren Buffett, and they're probably just day trading in their mom's basement. So I'd say that they're important, but just like the accolades I have, I don't think that, it's that big of a deal when you're talking about personal knowledge, personal experience. The smartest person that I ever knew in this industry didn't have a single one of those behind his name, but he could whip somebody up and down the table if you got him in the room and you wanted to talk actual business and things that were helping.
Certifications are not an indicator of competency.
Right.
I think you can argue that maybe it's a ground level basic knowledge test, but beyond that, I think you're right. So your business is unique, right? Speaking generally across everything, the whole industry. So tell me a little bit about your business formation. And what does that structure look like? Let's start there.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I guess people that are unfamiliar with the industry might need to know that you've got, in the world of insurance and financial services, you've got two sides. You've got the broker-dealer side, and you have the investment advisory side. For 100 years, it's been two sides. It's been the broker-dealer side and the investment advisory side. Things have come along to make broker-dealers able to operate as a hybrid, investment advisor, but they're still a broker-dealer. That means one side is regulated by FINRA, a self-regulated organization, so there's no regulators for them, and then the other one's governed by the SEC. So they both have unique principles, rules, things that they have to follow that keep them operating within their guidelines. But it's kept, for a long time, it's kept people in their lane, not able to offer on both sides of the aisle. And so when COVID happens, a lot of these regulatory norms holes were found because you had to allow people to work from home. You had to allow people to work remotely, not in the confines of this supervised principality. And so when that time came and those restrictions were lifted, you saw a lot more independent firms forming, a lot more people were able to choose, hey, do I want to stick to this route, or do I want to go this route? Do I want to go over the SEC? And something really unique that happened with us is we said, hey, what if we could do both of them? We were told, no, it's not a thing. Why is it not a thing? Well, if you're a principal of your firm, your licenses have to be hung up with either the BD or the IA. What if I don't want to hang up my licenses with either? Well, some higher institutional power has to sponsor those. That's if you're one person. There was no rule that established that if two people formed a partnership, had principality licenses on both sides of the aisle, they couldn't form an independent third-party firm that had two principals that could get contracts on both sides of the aisle. So that's what we did. It took a lot of money, took a lot of time, was a lot of red tape. And for months, I would say even the last several years, hamstrung kind of by those industry, giants that want to keep you, down and not operational. But through it all, we've been able to establish a really, really unique company that has the ability to operate on both sides of the aisle if it chooses to. But we market ourselves as that independent consulting firm. And so when we bring on our clients, it's unique as we're going to find what's best for you, no matter the side of the aisle, no matter where it is. So the difference between us and another company that claims to be a hybrid firm, if they're housed at a BD, they can only operate BD, whereas we do all of it. So if they show you 100 options, we show you 1,000 options is the main difference, which is really exciting.
And it's exciting because you help them make the right choice, right? So you're that you coach them in that decision making process. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's really we get in there, we identify what they need. They generally bring us in because they want to see if there are better options, which always there is. We find out what exactly is their biggest issue. We solve that for them, and then we show them everything else that can be done. Hey, we just worked in this one section, this one category for you. We're not restricted. We can move and we can do everything for you, And so, yeah, going in there, and whether it be shopping, different insurance plans, getting them, tax advice that they need, legal formations that they need.
Let's back it up a little bit to what's your ideal client profile look like?
So mainly small business owners. Those are the people that we can impact day one immediately. Biggest if they've got 20 employees or less, and they're paying the same for all these things that these bigger companies are. We go in there and we can help them out immediately. But
what about revenue?
Yeah, so everything that they need, if they're trying to bring in additional sources of revenue, or if they're trying to fine tune where they're currently at, identifying mistakes in business models, where they're overspending, where they're not spending enough. All of these things that we do and we bring into this tailored, hey, we're going to come in here, we're going to identify where we can save you money, where you can make more money, and we're going to go, full speed ahead on taking care of this for you if you let us do it. And we're not going to charge you for anything that we're recommending or anything that we're doing, because at the end of the day, we know if you let us do it, we're going to make you a client. We're going to bring you on. You'll be a client of ours.
So give me an example of a business, without naming the business, but give me an example of why they came to you, and then you helping them, and then getting further into helping them.
Yeah. So this industry specifically, which needs a lot of help. So we'll say oil and gas, or trucking, because I can use this one as a good example. They were paying an ungodly amount for their fleet insurance. And now it's just general rule for all the listeners or anybody to follow. You should not be loyal to any company when it comes to your commercial home auto or anything like that, because rates continue to climb. They keep going up. You should be shopping that out every single year to identify your savings and move on, because those companies are just going to keep jacking up your prices. We were able to go in there. They were working with one individual who worked for one company who was able to show them one rate, one company. They didn't know anything better. So we were able to go in there and get them the same high level of coverage that they needed to be compliant with the state, both intra and interstate coverage. We were able to save them. They had 200 employees. We were able to save them $300,000 off the cost of their fleet insurance on all their equipment, on everything like that. That freed up, $300,000 that we had to identify. What are we going to do with this? Where do we need to expand in our operations to turn this into, something that generates more money for us, but also is going to, that was a tax break, right? We don't want to lose that tax break. So we get to go in there with, our experts, with our CPAs, our master tax advisors. We get to go in there and come up with a plan to take these funds and reallocate them into ways that's going to better that business, help retain their top employees, and maximize their tax deductions at the end of the year.
Well, who made the decision on what to do with that? So, are they're shocked? Hey, wow, this is the money I can save, and then do you guys say, okay, look, yeah, you're saving $150 or $300,000. Now the next step is to do this, or do they come up with that idea? How does that next process take place?
See, we make our recommendations, but they don't have to follow them.
Right.
We're going to go in there and we're going to tell them, hey, this is great. You got $300,000 here. The next step of what you do with this, determines if you're going to be back here, at this same situation next year because you're not doing the right things with it. Or, if you're going to have a massive tax burden, at the end of the year, because you got to account for that. If you're going to take those funds and you're just going to turn that into, let's say, just an executive bonus or something like that. How's that truly maximizing, are your executives paid enough as it is? Probably are. If you lost, 20% of your staff tomorrow, how would that affect your business? Are you doing things right now to keep them happy, to keep them here? Have you interviewed them? Have you sat down with them? Do you know what's keeping them here versus going somewhere else that would pay them $5,000 more?
So that almost sounds like an HR component, as far as, so you guys are covering the insurance side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then next is, well, how do you want to invest in your business?
Mm-hmm.
So what part of your business is that? Or how do you handle that? Because insurance is one thing, you know what I mean? Investing, helping a business decide how to invest in their business and move along, that's different. How do you pivot between the two things and do it well?
So when we market our services and we go in there and we talk to those business owners and the decision makers and we present our company's presentation, they see everything that our firm does and can do. They generally tell us, hey, this is where we need help, and then we let them know we're going to be offering everything else we do after we've helped you with this situation. If you want to move forward, you can. But within that presentation, it is, we do HR, we do payroll, we do legal, we do tax, there's not a single thing that we don't do or can't help a small to large business with, from having, contracts with almost every single company out there in the industry and through HR, through payroll, through PEO, through everything. There's not a certain category that we can't help a business owner with.
How do you stay proficient in all of those categories?
Right. So bringing on the people that run the divisions for our company. So I myself don't do any of the things that I just named. I'm not in there doing that. What we do is you can think of us like a headhunter for the top minds in the industry. We'll source people that worked at some of these big, massive companies. We'll pay them a lot of money to come in and do this for us and to be in charge of, this division, this side of our business. We'll ask them what they need to be proficient in it to help expand their services. We'll get them the contracts, the technology, everything that they need to do the best for the clients that bring us on. And then we bring on outside parties, outside companies, outside independent contractors, people that have their own independent firm, independent practice that have been doing it for, 15, 20 years. If we have a project that's in, let's say, Abilene, Texas, and we've got one or two consultants in Abilene, Texas that are doing this for us, their job on top of what they're helping the business with and what we help the business with is setting up and finding the highest rated firms that do each of those niches in that area. So we can always bring in experts, even if we're not there in that city. We're able to bring in experts close by that can handle everything.
So how do you vet those folks?
So a lot of it has to do with personal reputation in that town. We want to go after and we want to find professionals that have a extremely exquisite, stellar reputation, but we also want to find those professionals that are able to handle a volume of business that we're going to be bringing to the table. We don't want to go find somebody that's going to turn down our clients because they're small. It's not going to be enough money in it for them. We want to go out and we want to find, that maybe that next generation that has, the talent, that has the drive, that has the energy, but they're with a mentor that's been doing it for 20, 25 plus years. People that we can trust and we can bring in to consult with us, with our clientele. And each consultant that we have that works with us, that's out there in every city, part of the responsibility is going and finding those attorneys, those CPAs, those firms, and then we interview them, we vet them, we make sure that they're going to fit the criteria, and then the agreements that are put in place are pretty strict in terms of protecting our clients and making sure that the best is getting done for them.
So you have qualified people out there looking for qualified people, and then you run them through a vetting process. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've got
Make
no
sure you
experience.
can work with them.
I've got no experience in payroll. The person that we have in charge has 20 plus years in payroll, was corporate exec for ADP, Paychex. That's the person that needs to be interviewing and making sure that these people are up to par. And so in each department, that's the level of talent that we have that's vetting, that's making sure everybody that comes in is up to snuff.
Great answer. Great job, dude. I mean, because that's where my mind was going. It's like, well, wait a minute. If you're not an expert in that,
Right.
how can you hire those people and do it other than, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, I like their profile picture.
I got made to look like such a fool in a city council meeting, and I was so pissed because we weren't there to do what they said. The guy introduced me wrong as to what we were doing, and I am not an expert in health insurance. That's not, I never proclaimed to be. I always tell people that I have no idea, and I'm going to get the person who's qualified to answer that question on the phone, because I will not talk about things that I don't know the answer to. It's my biggest, I'm not going to. I'll just tell you I don't know it, and I'll find somebody who can. I get stuck on camera, and I'm not going to say what city this was, but I get stuck on camera. This guy introduces me as we were already there, hired to do this job, which we weren't. We were presenting what we were capable of doing. And I get grilled by this city council member over stop-loss health insurance. I'm standing up there. He goes, "What is your expertise? What do you know on stop-loss health insurance?" And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I have not a damn clue about stuff like that. But I'm standing there, and I'm like, you know what? I have no idea. But fortunately, I'm in a position where I don't have to lie about things, and I can tell you when I don't know about them. And we've got somebody who has 15 years experience doing that we've brought on, that if he was standing in front of this microphone, he'd probably tell you that. And but I was walked up there like I was the all-knowing on everything.
Were you able to turn that around and diffuse it?
I try, they cut me off pretty fast whenever the city manager motioned to the person who introduced me, because I was pretty pissed off, because the city has to vote to let you come in and do all the consulting and everything. And I was introduced as if I circumvented that whole process. So I got waved off because they were like, "Hey, we don't need this guy to get eviscerated up here. Nothing has even, gone forward yet." And so I got to end with, the last thing I said was, "I'm not the expert in that. I don't want to lie and say that I am, but I have the unique ability to bring people in that have those years of experience to actually, do that." So that was how it ended. My grandmother thought it was wonderful, but me, I got in my vehicle and I was like,
what just
that
happened?
sucked. That sucked. Like, wow, that's not at all how that was supposed to take place.
So when it comes to these experts you're talking about, are you looking to expand that? Are you always looking to bring in more folks?
Always. That's what we do. We don't, we're not looking for, and it sounds, of course we want clients, but we're not looking for clients as much as we're looking for competent, capable, strongest, best in their industry at what they do, and honing in on that, bringing in those experts and saying, "Hey, you're a great point guard. You dribble with your right hand. We don't want you to dribble with your left hand. We don't want to move you, to the post. You're great at this. We want you to stay in this lane. We want to reinforce what you do. We want to give you everything you need to do that better. And we're going to do all of this for you. And we're going to send you all of this business. We just need you to prioritize our clients and know that we're going to take care of you and send you as much business if you can follow this agreement and you can make sure that not only our clients take priority, but you're doing the best you possibly can for them."
So how do you guys get paid? How does your company earn revenue?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different revenue that we have coming in from multiple different factors. So one, I'd be disingenuous to say that, we as a firm can't provide and sell insurance solutions, or to say that we as a firm can't act as an investment manager and do those services, that we can't, actually provide the payroll, or we can't actually, no, we have all the structure and the setup to actually do that ourselves through our own contracts. And independents that are not their own firm, or those professionals, those niches that we're handing out to, that we're giving business to, we have the capability to do that, but we only bring on a small select group of clientele that, we personally in-house will be like, yeah, we'll handle these, ourselves. Mainly it's the friends and family. of our actual consultants that will do that, because our whole model is set up to, you're a mom and pop practice for tax advisory services. You've been servicing your city for 30 plus years. You have a stellar reputation, but you're 70 years old. You're about to retire. You've brought in your son, your grandson, daughter, granddaughter. We want to work with them, continue this, and help you feel confident knowing that when you retire and you move, you've got, you can go. This person's taken care of. They've got it. We're working with them. We also charge for what we consult for Fortune 100s, 500s, municipalities, and government contracts that we do. That's a big source of revenue that we have coming in, because the government loves to overspend and overpay for things. That's a problem all of its own. So our model is we charge 10% of what we save. So we're going to go in there. We know we're going to save you a lot of money, especially government, especially those municipalities. We're going to go in there and we're going to just absolutely, zero base, account this whole thing. We're going to save you hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. And then we're going to charge you 10% of what we save you. And that's what's in our contract. So that's how we're able to fund the operation. And I don't think there's a more honest approach to it than we're going to charge you off of what we save you, not a fee for just doing this job we know we're going to win.
No, I like that too. It's very practical.
Yeah.
You're kind of earning your way to your paycheck, which I love that. All right. So, we had a chat. I know you have a pretty good close rate for new businesses and account takeovers. Give me an idea about that percentage, because I know it's pretty high.
Well, we don't have any competition right now in the state of Texas. There's a number of firms like ours throughout the country. There's very few. And I don't, say that as a way to say that we can't be beat when it goes to, going out and closing a business owner and bringing them on. We get beat by loved ones. If you're working with a loved one, God bless you. Like, I can't make you love us more than them. You might be okay with overpaying for this because you're helping somebody out, So, we'll get beat by fraternity brothers. We'll get beat by, sons, daughters, aunts, uncles, mothers. We'll get beat by family because businesses want to, help out family members, But when we go in there and we tell them what we do, what makes us different, how we know that they're not going to, see as many options anywhere else than they're going to see with us. They're not going to get the services offered free of charge to back up what we're saying. Unless you don't understand the message that we're presenting to you and the 13-minute pitch, which is what we're going to give because you're a business owner, you got things you got to do. The presentation takes about 13 minutes. And if you are competent, if you understand what we're saying to you, you're going to do business with us, unless you're working with a loved one and you recognize, I'm going to be overpaying, but it's okay. I'm okay with doing that. So that's why our closing rate is so high, because nobody can do what we do.
Well, the close is right there. It's like we're only going to charge you 10% of what we save you.
Right. Right.
How do you say no to that? Because you're not going to get paid unless I'm saving lots of money and I'm keeping 90% of it.
Right.
So I like that model. Where did that model come from? Was it your idea, or was it already industry standard somewhere? Or
no, what? There was an article that I was reading in Forbes, and it was, and I don't want to say the name of the person of the company, but his model, they said it was so unique, but he only worked with higher, upper echelon, you had to be like a billionaire to work with him. But it wasn't always that way. He started independently, and he started very, very, very young. And it was, what do you have that this person with 30, 40 years, doesn't have? And he was so confident in his ability because he was trying to grow his book, and he was so hungry. He was like, how about I charge you what I save you? How about that? So that's where his model went, and he kept it throughout his entire, business. And he went from, somebody that was working out of a garage to now he's in Forbes, you know? And I was like, what a great, honest business model, you know? I'm so confident in my ability to do what I'm telling you we're going to do. I'm not even going to charge you until you let me do what I've told you we're doing. And I was like, that's stellar. You can't be beat with that, because competitors out there, people aren't doing that. They want this instant gratification. They want this money up front. But let me ask you, if you've ever had a contractor that you've hired, if you pay them up front, you'll find that the job rarely gets done on time, rarely gets done the way you want it to get done. Whereas, you know, and it's the same in the financial and insurance industry, that agent, that advisor, that they get paid right then and there for what they do, and then they half-ass it or something doesn't come through for you in the best manner that it can be done. No, we're working from day one to the very end to determine what we are owed. And we know that it's fair and that you're going to be like, that's perfectly fine. Because is it coming out of your bottom line? No, it's not. It's coming out of the work that we've just done. You know, it's coming out of money that we've saved you. So when you run your payroll, when you go to that next calendar year and you factored that in there, you know that it didn't cost you anything, really.
So we talked also about how Silverback really Financial is better positioned to handle the needs of today's business owners compared to the companies that have been around for decades. So your competition is still your competition, but I think you could argue it's not really your competition. It's just what's current and maybe going away, but we'll see. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so the old guard, like I said, when COVID happened, there was, you know, a reckoning. A lot of things came down. A lot of changes had to be made. And so, like I said, you've seen a lot more formation on the independent space than you might have had. And there was a big, you know, uptick of this, you know, maybe 20, 25, 30 years ago, right before the .com, you know, burst hit in 2000. So that wiped a lot of people out. There were small independents. 2008 wiped a lot of people out. There were small and independents. So you've had, and then you had COVID happen, which also wiped out, you know, small independents. So let's just say in the last 30 years, you know, or less, you've had 3 cataclysmic events that have really hamstrung an industry that is, you know, trying to move into this new generation of doing things. But all the businesses that have come forward have had these cataclysmic events come in and just absolutely knock them off the table from expanding and doing what needs to be done. So the only companies that have survived are these giants. And the companies that send those lobbyists into Washington to keep, you know, those smaller firms from competing with us, you know, how we're going to survive when that happens, you know, when the next one happens, which we know will happen, don't know when, by embracing our competition and by being our competition, instead of competing with a company that is exclusive and can offer something that you would say an independent could not. We have consultants contracted with those firms. We can offer that exact solution to our clients because we have those contractual relationships not only with the companies but with the people who work at those companies. So nothing's exclusive anymore by the way that we've done things. Now, could those people write outside business? They absolutely cannot. They're under these clauses. They're under these non-competes. They're under all of these things where it's deemed selling away. But it doesn't stop us from being able to have our clients work with that individual that works for that company that can't go anywhere else. Because it's, at the end of the day, it's not us writing it. It's not us, you know, needing the commission off that sale. It's not us needing any of that. Our job is to be loyal to the client and to provide what the best is for that client. So being that we don't have competition because we are our competition, we can absorb. If you do something we don't, I can be you tomorrow. All I have to do is call your execs, call the board of directors at your company, and get a consulting contract because you're going to realize, oh, damn, yeah, we want them to be able to offer our stuff. It's less expensive for us to pay this firm than it is for us to pay this HR department this office rent, this upper management, this middle management to pay this commission, and then we're going to bill all of that into what we offer the client. We go in there and we cut all of that out. So when I say that there's nothing that's keeping us from growing or expanding because of the way we do business, there's nobody that can compete. So we're not sitting here versus 2 or 3 different companies, because I can sit here and say, if you like that, we can do that. If you like that, we can do that. And they can't say the same.
So setting yourself apart, obviously, in the industry is a pretty significant way you guys are setting yourself apart. With respect to finance and insurance, same model, right? Same thing that you're doing there. All right, cool. Well, I like all that. This fee-free approach, right, is what we're talking about. That's that you're only going to pay us what we earn. At 10% of what we earn. Mm-hmm. Is that standard across everything? Is it always at 10%, or does that fluctuate?
No, so we don't charge that to small business owners. That's something we charge. If you're a municipality, if you're a Fortune 100, if you're a Fortune 500, if we know that the scale of this job is going to take us 6 months to a year to complete, with everything that we've got to dance around, with all the restrictions, the red tape, everything like that, that's who that rule applies to. For small business owners, it doesn't apply. For individual, family members, friends, anybody that's referred or recommended from somebody that works with us. So say we have a CPA, and they say, hey, they reach out to us and they say, hey, I want you guys to look at my family, or this is a good buddy of mine, I want you to look at this stuff. If you're referred into us, there's no there's no charge, there's no anything. And if you're somebody that comes to us, off the street and just says, hey, can you help me? We'll do it. But we're not soliciting to individual clients. We're out here right now. Our consultants that own their own practice, they're stopping in, they're talking with business owners. So other than them walking in, business to business, saying, hey, we're the new company on the block, Disruptors, this is what we do. We don't charge for individuals that want to work with us. We don't charge for those small businesses. We only charge that fee to major corporations, municipalities, and those companies. Everybody else gets that service for free.
Interesting. It's almost like a nonprofit component.
Almost.
To it, right? It's give back to the really entrepreneurs need all the help we can get, because it's a rough go.
Yeah.
So, something like that is pretty cool. Yeah. So you gave an example in the insurance industry, mm-hmm. right, of like saving $300,000 on mm-hmm. a commercial insurance gig.
Right.
What about in the finance side of it?
So something really, really special that's come about, I guess. Well, it's been around for a while. These these rules and these regulations and these things in place to keep you where your money's with these big major institutions. The name brand companies, as far as where you have your 401ks and where you have your investments. I'm not going to name names, because anybody that's investing is probably 9 times out of 10, their money market or something is parked there, right? Well, you have, just like you have in the insurance side of the industry, you've got these major companies that have paid lobbyists going to Washington, that have put these restrictions in place to where independent sophisticated advisory, let's say your private equity or your hedge fund manager, okay? These are people that are not backed by a major company. They're not, any major player. There are some outstanding private equity and outstanding hedge fund operators, even based here in Texas, just down the road in Austin. Because Texas has it's one of the best states to open up private equity or hedge fund management. It's one of the easiest for you to actually do it and for you to raise capital without all of this red tape. Well, there's still federal red tape to where these fund managers are restricted to the amount of clientele they can take on, households they can represent. And if they didn't have these restrictions, you wouldn't have your money parked at any of these old places. You'd be with one of these firms, because they're getting their clientele into what is deemed sophisticated investments that the general public doesn't necessarily have access to. And it's by design. It's by design. You know, these companies control the 99% and then the upper echelon, and then these companies get a fraction of the 1% or the upper echelon. So it's hard to be an individual, everyday working person and put your money in a non-mainstream kind of investment that's generating returns like some of these 1%ers are getting. You know, there's Warren Buffett may go down in history as the greatest investor, you know, of our lifetime, right? And there's like 37 members of Congress that have outperformed his portfolios. You know, it's when you're restricted and you can only do it if you're in this upper echelon, this top 1%. So by deemed accredited, you know, you've got multi-million-dollar, you know, liquid net worth, excluding your primary residence. You make, you know, $250,000 a year, multiple years. Then you get this label where you can get into these investments, but you have to find a firm that has the space to take you, and that doesn't happen. So what our company has done is we've made relationships to where those hedge fund managers, those private equity firms, they sell their portfolio management to a registered investment advisory practice. And there's a lot of registered investment advisory practices doing this. And they just can't market or, you know, publicize it to the extent that those big major companies can. But what that gives us the ability to do, and it gives those other RIAs the ability to do, is bring in everyday individuals and put them into the same portfolios that the top 1%ers are playing in. It gives the ability for investment opportunities that people have never heard of, that they don't know, that can't be deemed safe, but are a lot better off because of the downside protection than just throwing your funds in the market and riding the roller coaster. So that's something that, you know, is really big, that we take a lot of pride on, is being able to show those options that they would normally never be able to see unless they were deemed sophisticated.
Does the individual have to still qualify as being eligible to make those kinds of investments? So are we talking about risky investments, or are we talking about, there's no guarantee, obviously?
You tell me. So there's risk in the stock market, right? Like even if you go into a baseline, you know, blue chip stock, there's risk, you know. And there's rules in place where any investment advisor or anybody that's managing money, they can't ever tell you that an investment can be deemed safe, right? There are options out there available to only those accredited and 1%ers, to where even though you can't say that it's safe, it's backed by the U.S. Treasury, or with highest credibility out there, right? Or it has downside protection. It's got hedges. It's got buffers. It's got barriers. It's got things where it's like, hey, you get to experience all this market upside. And if the market drops by 20, 30%, you don't experience any drop in your capital. You don't have any, you know, you don't take any losses. There are things out there like that people have never heard of or even known about. And that's available. And so
why do you think they're not hearing about it? Is it really like, hey, this is our club and we don't want you playing in it? I mean, why would they, or why would we want to exclude, you know, or just hone it into the 1% and exclude the 99%? Or is that what's happening? Or
yeah, I mean, I've got a couple theories, you know. One is you know, yeah, I think it does have a lot of, you know, excluding factors. Now, they'll say it's for the safety of the consumer. This is for your safety, that we don't allow you to play where the big money's playing, okay? But the big money's playing in things that don't lose, that never lose, okay? So we're the only people capable of playing in this field that never loses. Market goes up, market goes down, market goes sideways. We always make money, but you have to do whatever the market is doing, and you're not able to come into this area of the field because it's not safe. Which it's, you know, frankly, it's bullshit. It's intentional because they make a lot of money. They make a lot of money off of risk, okay? The most money is made on risk, because if I can charge you a fee for my services and I can tell you, I can get away with telling you I don't know what my performance is going to be. That is that's an incredible money mate. You can't even blame me for what happens with your money, but I'm going to charge you anyway, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, whether it goes sideways. I get to charge you for this no matter what happens. And that's what's been going on for a long time. Whereas these people in this private equity, this, hedge fund, they have ownership in those funds, so they get ownership in the returns. And you have a small group of fiduciaries out there that claim to do something similar, where they make money only when you make money, right? But that's not the case. It may be the case for their personal income, but it's not the case for what the fees that you're paying that are built into those portfolios that you're going in, that are built in on the back end.
I wrote something down. Risk guarantee has to be limited. In other words, we can guarantee you're not going to lose because it's backed by the Treasury or by whatever. But you can't do that for everybody, because it's too much risk that you're getting into, or that you're taking, as far as like the Treasury or whatever else. But if we can limit it to this 1% or whatever that is, then we can guarantee that. But then we have to reduce the exposure as far as people joining and being a part of that, because, hey, we can't let everybody in because you overwhelm the system. Do you agree with that or no?
I mean, partially. There's so everybody, if everybody's on the same boat, the water rises, everybody's going to rise with it, Same with, if the ship sinks and everybody's on it, everybody's going to sink, everybody's going to fail. Diversification is, there's a lot of that thrown around in, the industry. Like, hey, you need to diversify, you need to do this. And from, a safety aspect of it, I think that's very important. But I mean, if you had your money, and this is, not investment advice, I'm not giving investment advice or anything right now, so we'll just disclose that. But if you were working with somebody who is supposed to be managing your portfolio the past couple of years, and when Fed Chairman Powell came out and said, we are going to hike interest rates, multiple times this next year, we're going to jack them up. We've got to, because we have to control inflation. If you were working with an advisor who was charging you a fee for their services, and they had you in bonds, and they didn't move you out of those bonds, they're not doing anything. They're an armchair. They're sitting there. They're getting their fee no matter what they tell you. I only make money. No, that's bull, because everybody knows, anybody that has any common sense knows that bond yields and interest rates and inflation, they run in tandem with each other. They're running with each other. So I know if I've bought a bond and you've got interest rates that are skyrocketing, my yields are going to go in the toilet. I'm going to be down. So you had the Fed chair come out and announcing this publicly to the world. So you had an opportunity for everybody to get out of bonds and not lose money if they were with somebody that was competent. But you should see the portfolios that I've looked at where these people are just getting absolutely housed because somebody wasn't, doing anything that's common sense. And I think where the industry, stands to get better, one, we have to educate the public better. People need to learn personal finance. They need to learn the foundation of, what they're getting into and what they actually do. But as far as everybody can't be in this because not everybody can be winners, to the extent I think that there's people pulling the strings that are bad people that would say, yeah, but I think mostly it's gigantic corporations that to their foundation, to their core, need these old methods to be in place for them to stay alive. And that's why you have the system in place that we do. That's why you have the same, everybody's doing this, and then only this certain upper echelon of people are doing this.
All right, so you mentioned, we talked a little bit about interest rates and stuff like that. So 2024 election's coming up.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You talked a little bit about bonds. Of course, bonds We talked before about that. I'll let you kind of expand on that a little bit more if you want to. But with respect to, the 2024 election or other geopolitical events that are going on right now, how do you think that that's going to affect your clients?
Yeah. So, personally, like their mental state, maybe, we're ready to handle whatever happens. There's the really, really good news is, and I want to give, everybody peace of mind. If you're really worried about, how is this next election going to impact, my retirement or my investments, if you're with anybody that is remotely competent, you're good. You're okay, because we've already seen what's going to happen. We've already seen we know what investments were good, where to move, if this individual gets elected, and we know that we can just stay course with more of the same, and we know what's about to happen with, if this person gets elected, it's not going to affect your investments, too different one way or the other, because if you have an active manager of those investments, this is like Christmas. It's like, I already know, there's no mystery. We already know what we're going to get, so that's okay. I tell you, the markets react to change. They don't like change. So if you have a landslide and you have, House, Senate, and White House, the market's not going to like that as much as they'll like a House divided. Because when you have a House divided, it limits the changes that can be made, things being passed. So the market will like that. There's also trillions of dollars in stimulus money that has still not hit the market. That's why, for the first time ever, you're seeing interest rates through the roof, and you're seeing the market in a record area. There's no reason that over the past several years, no matter what you were in, you shouldn't have been making money, whether you're out of the market making money in high interest or whether you were in the market, So other than, mental state, other than peace of mind, I guess what's important to them as an individual, and that candidate's going to make you feel, better about that. I'm not the person that you would ask, because I don't believe in politicians very much, because I've gotten to work with politicians and I've gotten to work in that field. And, it's really, at the end of the day, what you do in your personal life and what you do within your community is going to affect your life a lot more than what any politician that gets into office is going to do.
That's great parental advice too. You know what I mean? Do you have any kids?
I do. I've got two.
Okay. How old are they?
So we've got one that is about to be 3 here in January, and then I've got a 9-month-old.
Okay. So I've got a 17-year-old. You met her out there in the lobby. Mm-hmm. So it's like, just to what you said. I mean, you said it beautifully, but I've conveyed those same thoughts about non-political matters that are all like hype or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that's interesting, but how does that make you better at what you're doing in your day-to-day walk? Because at the end of the day, they're not paying your bills. Mm-hmm. You got to pay your bills, right?
That's right.
So it's a great life lesson, and we really are we have a lot of control over our own destiny. So I appreciate that, and I think the education here is super, super valuable for people to know that there's a different way to approach these types of things. And the entrepreneurial spirit that's woven into your business is fantastic, because it's like, I'm going to prove to you, and then I'm going to get paid. It's not the other way around.
Right. Yeah, no, it's been a fun journey. We've been, over the last 3 years, the most exciting part for me has been when I'm walking around and, I introduce myself to people and they say, oh, I've heard of you. There is nothing. I don't think, and I don't want to speak for all business owners, but I don't think there's a more, gratifying feeling. There's something that fills your heart so much more than somebody saying, oh, I've heard about you, or hey, so-and-so, I've got a buddy that uses you. They said y'all are great. All of those things, you hear that and you're like, yes, that just makes, that makes your heart happy. That makes you feel, full. And over the last, 3 years, really the past 9 months where we've been able to come out of our shell and we've been able to, we finished fully formatting. We're full circle now, able to take off and running, the expansion, the growth that we've had now touching multiple cities, having people, reach out, getting to talk to, business owners and people that we've helped, this has been the greatest, journey, the greatest ride ever, And I'd encourage anybody to suffer through what you have to be able to make it happen for yourself,
Well, especially if it's a good thing for
Absolutely.
people, because if it serves the community well, it's a win-win. All right, Ryland, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, so they can go to our website if they want to get in touch with us for consulting services. If they're a professional in their community that has let's say a long track record of success, but they're wanting to grow their business, they consider themselves to be a high character. They've got integrity through the roof, and they know that they're going to do right by their clients. And maybe they've been getting beat up by all the big companies out there where they can't offer what those big companies out there can offer. We're the company that can help you offer all of those things. And we want to see you and we want to see your business succeed. So if you're a professional in the industry, whether it be financial services, tax, legal, real estate, anything like that, you can go to our website, silverbackfinancial.org, and you can run through and you can send us an email at services@silverbackfinancial.org, and you can fill out the questionnaire on our website that will get you in contact with somebody. There are multiple people that see that will see it when it comes in. So if you send us something at 11 o'clock at night and one of our people feel like working, they'll send you a response at 11 o'clock at night. So that's the main way to get in contact with us. You can get in contact with us through Facebook, through LinkedIn. Just found out we have an Instagram page, so I guess you can get through to us on Instagram as well.
I love that, Ryland. Well, thanks for coming in and chatting with me about all that. Quite the educational curve. You're the first guest I've had in that space, so excited to have you on. All right, as we wrap up the show, a quick reminder, check out our latest podcast and catch video versions of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it for this one. You guys have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thank you.